Sony TC131SD stereo cassette deck. This would be from, I guess, about the late 1970s vintage, I would think, maybe even mid 1970s vintage. I don't know if there's a date on this thing or not, but a lot of times they didn't date the older equipment. But made in Japan. Got a serial number here, 53186. Doesn't have a date code on this thing, but I would guess that this is probably from the maybe the mid 70s, early to mid 70s. Definitely it's going to be in the 70s. I'll have to look up and see when this thing was made. We're going to check this thing out and see whether it works. Okay, we got lights there. That works. We'll just get our tape here and see if it will play. I have no idea the condition of this thing. I haven't done anything to it yet other than clean up the cabinet a bit because it was quite yellow from cigarette smoke. Looks like this unit's working. Sound isn't as good as I think it should be. So I think we're going to start just by cleaning the heads on here because that is a good place to start. It's kind of sounding a little bit muffled. So we'll just clean the head. And we'll clean the pinch roller and the capstan shaft as well, as it's quite dirty. And we're just going to grab another tape. I'm just going to try playing some stuff on here. See how it sounds now that we've cleaned the head. So I've just got a tape playing on here now. I don't think there's anything else on this tape. Oh, we have a rewind problem. And we have a fast forward problem. So we have to address that. It's probably slipping belts. And I think we're probably going to have to do an alignment on the head. It sounds like the Azimuth may be a little bit out of adjustment. There didn't seem to be a lot of treble on that recording. So we'll just, first of all, we'll just throw our tone tape in and just take a listen to our tone tape. See how that sounds. First of all, how do we look for a little bit on the sharp side? Actually, it's pretty close. A little bit high, but not too bad. But let's just see if we can adjust the actual azimuth on the tape head here. So the adjustment screw is right down on the side of the head here. And somebody has been playing with it as the paint seal is broken. So it's going to get another tape with a little more high frequency content in it so that we can adjust it for the best treble. I know there are ways to do it with a scope. I can't be bothered with that. I just listen to it with my ear. Okay, we're just going to tweak this here a bit. That going too long there, but you can hear what a difference we just made. It was off by a mile. Somebody had been playing with the head on this thing, didn't have a clue what they were doing. And now it actually sounds half decent. So we can take this thing apart now and we'll get the belts taken care of. Make this thing work. I just wanted to make sure that it was going to actually, sound half decent before spending any time on it. now we know it's not a lost cause. We can get into this unit here and see if we can get the thing going. So we'll just pull the screws out of the bottom. Reveal the circuitry. As you can see, it's a belt drive system. If you look at this, I love it. Look at that mechanism. Doesn't that remind you of an old basic cassette tape recorder? Doesn't even have a flat belt for the capstan drive and the take-up. So we've got our motor here. So that's for the auto stop. That's what that is. How this one operates, I'll show you. I've got no tape in it now, so I can open the thing up. If I put it into play, I'll turn the power on. Okay. So, oh, look at these belts. We're going to have to replace some belts in this thing. This is pretty sad. Look at how loose these ones here are. Maybe we can just clean them up. So our capstan is being driven here. This is our capstan flywheel. This little idler here is what drives the take-up spool. You can see if I stop the take-up spool from turning, it'll actually stop this. It'll stop this little felt pad here. So if I just stop this, this will simulate a tape getting to the end. What this does, I'm going to show you with a close-up here how this mechanism works. See this little lever that's going back and forth here? It's on a little camshaft. Well, what happens, as long as the take-up supply reel, or the take-up spool is turning, it's keeping this little lever moving back and forth. If it stops, you'll see what happens. Okay? It comes up and it stays there. And it should kick the mechanism off if it's not gummed up. Maybe I gotta stop the spool on this side. If I stop the spool from turning, looks like the auto stop's not working. Because what's supposed to happen is, I think we probably got something that's gummed up here. I'll have to just take this apart and see if there's some grease that's gummed up. What's supposed to happen is this is supposed to ride up and down, and if it stops turning, it's supposed to catch it and push a lever, which will do the same thing as pressing the stop button, which is, where's the stop button on this thing? It's here. So one of these levers here is supposed to auto stop it. We'll take this apart. I'm sure we're going to find something in here is gummed that prevents that from kicking it. Anyway, it's a full mechanical auto stop. Let's clean these belts, see if we can get them working a little better first. I get the feeling on this unit I'm going to have to pull the deck right out of it to get at the top side of the idlers. It's the whole chassis actually comes out as one piece. Should be a couple screws holding this whole chassis in. I believe it's these screws on the outside here have to come out. I believe that one's got to come out, and this one over here, and this one over here. These come out, and then this whole chassis should lift right out. To disassemble this unit, don't forget this one screw down here. With that screw not undone, the cover will not lift off. Okay, so there's our belt drive for our auto stop, but we've got the rubber tires here are pretty worn, so we're gonna get in here with some cleaner, and we're just gonna put some cleaner on the rubber tires here and see whether we can get this thing. These belts look like they're pretty much shot too, but I'm not worried too much about the belts at this moment in time. It's more about getting the rubber tires cleaned up. We'll worry about the belts once we get everything else cleaned up. So we're going to just try cleaning these off with some alcohol first of all. See whether that will coax enough life out of them. If not, we'll put some of the rosin rubber renew compound on them, and that will make them work. These hubs could probably use lubrication as well. So we can take the tops off them here, lift them out, and we can put some oil down onto the shaft. Good old oil, and we'll put one little drop of oil on each of these spindles. Again, you don't want to put too much oil on because, as they say, too much oil is worse than not enough. There's a little washer that came off this thing, it looks like, too, that I got to put back on. There we go. Put that washer back in there. I think we'll probably have to put some rubber renew on these tape spindles, but we'll see. Lift up the brake assemblies to get them seated again, and then we put the little tops on to hold the hubs back in place. These little tops go back on there. And then we can once again thread the belt for the tape counter. So we're just going to put a bit of rosin onto the rubber parts here, because this will make them pretty sticky when it dries. This stuff is extremely sticky. It's made from a tree sap, and it's got some ether and other high level cleaners in there, so it actually softens up the rubber a little bit while it works. And it works really quite well. Okay, now let's see if it'll rewind. Oh yes, it rewinds and it fast forwards just fine now. See that? And it also plays. So we have the basics going on this thing. Now we need to work at getting the auto stop working. It's all mechanical. It's probably worn out on this thing because it's so old, but we'll try and get it going. And as we continue the video, I'm not going to work on it anymore tonight as it's getting late. But as I continue the video, we're going to see if we can get this auto stop mechanism going. I did have a belt, so if I can get this thing going. Okay, turn this on. Okay, now you'll see that this lever is turning like it's supposed to. When this stops, this little cam is supposed to catch this little lever here is supposed to catch on this piece here. Pull it forward. But I have a sneaking suspicion that it's worn out. This is actually part of it too. When this turns, it moves this lever. But I have a feeling that this little plastic arm here is worn. It's supposed to catch to this lever here and pull this lever. It may just be gummed up, but we'll take a look at that tomorrow or when I get back on this thing. But this is the auto stop mechanism here, And how it works is this lever here should catch. When it goes forward, if there's nothing to push it back down, it's supposed to catch this little plastic lever here and pull it like that. Okay, I want to try and explain how the old mechanical auto stop worked. We can easily see it in this demonstration here that I'm going to try and do for you. As the pulley rotates here, it makes this cam gear rotate, which operates this little cam lever. It rides up and down with the cam. So the lever here rides up and down on this camshaft. And as that rides up and down, it pulls this other lever that you see back here, back and forth. Now there's a little cog that sticks up on this lever, and what it normally does is it moves this other lever that you can see me moving here back and forth with it. So as this goes back and forth, it moves this other cog back and forth with it, like this. Now the reason it's not working is because the little tooth on the end of this lever is broken, and we're not going to be able to fix that. So we're not going to worry about that, the auto stop mechanism on this unit, but that's why it's not working. But normally what happens is this little tooth rides back and forth. And as the little tooth rides back and forth, you'll see that there's a little lever here. I'll try and get the camera in position so you can see it. Right down in here, you'll see that as this rides back and forth, and if I move it by hand, you'll see that this little piece lifts back and forth like this. This little wheel here, this is turned from a belt from the take up and supply spool. So as this is turning, this is pulling it back like this. You see that? It's going in the opposite direction. If you're going to rewind, it goes the other way. Now if the reel stops turning, it's not going to work because of gravity, because of the weight of it, but if it's lying flat and this stops turning, this will pull up and this little wheel will stop. As it comes back down, that little tooth there that we just saw drop into the groove, this little tooth will ride, because when it pulls it straight, right, when this pulls straight, it lines this piece up. So it's dead center. So now what's going to happen is this little tooth is going to drop back and it's going to sit on that little high center piece there. Like that. Right? Now, when this cam comes back a second time, when this cam releases and comes back a second time, it's going to catch a secondary catch on this plastic piece, and then when it pulls it all the way forward like that and releases the mechanism and resets. And that is how the auto stop on these old mechanical units work. And the reason that auto stop isn't working on here is because this little plastic, little nylon piece here, there's a little catch that protrudes up that is broken. So we can't fix the auto stop on this thing. It's way too old. In fact, I'm not even going to put any money at all into this deck at all. I put a belt on here to make that part work, but we don't even need to leave that on because the auto stop on this is not working. So we might as well just take those belts off. Unit still records and plays. So we'll clean the controls and we'll clean the record play switches. So here's our controls. Just give them a little shot of neutral to clean the switches, and these are the record play switches here. So we'll just give these switches a little shot as well. And work them through by hitting the record switch. I guess now we'll just put this unit back into its front cover. This goes back together pretty easy because cover doesn't pick up my fluke meter. Cover just slips in place on this thing. Just like that. Put the screws in the bottom to hold it in, and we'll just run a couple little tests on it. Kind of like how they attach the chassis on this thing with these standoffs that screw into the unit. They actually hold the base cover on as well. Bottom cover. There you have it. The old TC131SD is now back together. It does need a belt, so I'm not going to be able to finish this off in the video. It's going to need a capstan drive belt. It's got a lot of play in there, and cleaning it up didn't help. I don't have the belt for this unit. Again, I'm not about to invest in a belt unless someone's interested in this unit. So this is going to go back in the box, and we'll see if someone's looking for one of these units. I'll certainly get the belt for them. I know it records and plays because I had it playing before, and I know it does work. So, but the belt itself is slipping. It won't go into fast forward, for example. So I'm going to leave it at that, and thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.